In June 1960, the peaceful community of Essex, Maryland was shaken by a horrifying tragedy, the murder of a 9-year-old girl. Her disappearance and brutal death left a family devastated and neighbors fearful. The chilling details of her case, combined with unanswered questions that linger to this day, make her story one that demands to be remembered. This is the story of Alva Jean Parris. Hello friends, my name is Marcia, and this is Midwest Murders. Essex is located approximately 10 miles east of downtown Baltimore and is directly adjacent to Middle River. In 1960, it was a growing suburban community, providing affordable housing for families working in Baltimore's industrial section. Its proximity to major employers like Bethlehem Steel and Western Electric made it an attractive area for working-class families, such as the Parris family. While Essex had a reputation for being a tight-knit and family-oriented community, concerns about crime were growing as suburban sprawl increased. It was against this backdrop that a young girl left home headed for her aunt's house 2 blocks away. Alva Jean Parris, age 9, the eldest of 4 children, was a 4th grader at Middlesex Elementary School. Considered sensible and not prone to stray, she attended the local community church and Sunday school on Orville Road. With her big brown eyes and shoulder-length hair, she was well loved in her community. Alva's siblings included her sister Mary, age 5, her brother Edward, age 7, and her younger brother Ralph Jr., age 4. Alva's mother, Mrs. Fredonia Parris, had been working at Western Electric for the past 18 months, following her separation from her husband Ralph Parris, who lived in Monroe, Tennessee. While Fredonia worked 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., the children were cared for by their grandmother, Mrs. Alva Queen Wade, in their home at the Edgewood Apartments, also called the Riverdale Apartments, at 45 Westway North in Essex. On June 15, 1960, Alva stayed home from school because she wasn't feeling well. Later that morning, she left her home around 9 a.m. to run an errand to her aunt's house, Mrs. Elizabeth Queen, who lived in the 1700 block of Earhart Avenue. Later reports claimed that Alva may have been visiting her cousin Ricky Queen, who was celebrating his 10th birthday, and Alva had arrived early to help decorate his cake. Alva was dressed in green shorts, a blouse, and pink socks when she left her home. The family began searching for her about 1:30 p.m. after she failed to arrive to her aunt's house. When they couldn't find her by dark, the police were called. Initial searches covered the Essex woods and the basements of nearby apartments and houses. Police first suspected Alva may have traveled to visit her father in Tennessee, although no clear explanation was provided for how she would have gotten from Maryland to Tennessee. 11-year-old Linda Stollard, a friend of Alva's, told police that they had played together in the park until 4:30 p.m. that day, when Alva said she was headed home. 5 days later, on June 15th, police organized a large-scale search. Several rescue groups, including the Arbutus, Middle River, and Bowley's Quarters groups, participated in the search. The Edgemere Moose Water Rescue Group also searched the Middle River near Eastern Avenue. That evening at 8 p.m., Charles P. DeMarco of the Middle River Rescue Squad found a pair of child's black and white saddle shoes in the woods of an abandoned farm just south of the 1800 block of Old Eastern Avenue, about a mile from Alva's home. The shoes, which were still tied, were about 10 feet apart. 2 searchers with DeMarco, Daniel C. Long and Ralph W. Shriver, members of the Arbutus Squad, saw a small mound in a grove of gum saplings nearby. In a shallow grave, covered with a piece of linoleum and tree branches, was the body of the 9-year-old. While police reported that Alva's face had been battered and her teeth knocked out, an autopsy conducted by Dr. William Lovett, Jr., the assistant medical examiner, could not determine the exact cause of death, but ruled out recognizable disease or injury. Tests for poisonous substances returned negative results. An alkali solution had been poured on her stomach, possibly to destroy evidence. Neighbors reported seeing a strange man loitering in the area on the day Alva disappeared. Police intensified their investigation, placing uniformed officers on 12-hour shifts and canceling all scheduled off time in order to canvass homes and businesses. Authorities determined her death occurred shortly after she disappeared. With her shoes found several feet from her body and her socks pulled down to her heels, police theorized a youth or slightly built man, unable to carry the 70-pound Alva, may have committed the murder. Her father, Ralph Parris, was questioned but never considered a prime suspect. He was eventually cleared. Lie detector tests were given to several individuals, including Alva's grandmother, Mrs. Alva Queen Wade, Alva's half-uncle, 16-year-old Roscoe Wade, Alva's uncle, 38-year-old Calvin Queen, Alva's mother, Fredona Parris, and their landlord, 28-year-old Geneva Small. While no one was charged, the police believed the family knew more than they were telling. The Parris family moved to Alabama shortly after Alva's murder, but authorities maintained contact with them. A tile setter was also arrested and questioned during the investigation, but was ultimately released. A 24-year-old steel worker, a 54-year-old aircraft worker, and an 18-year-old were also questioned, but they too were ultimately cleared. The community was deeply affected by Alva's tragic death. Her funeral services were held at the Protestant Community Church in Edgewater. Reverend J. Warren Deardorff officiated the service, which was conducted under the direction of Speck and Hyder Funeral Home in Livingston, Tennessee, and the Connolly Funeral Home in Essex. Alva Jean was laid to rest in the Cope Cemetery in Pickett County, Tennessee. There are several points in this case that don't quite line up. The reports surrounding Alva's whereabouts before she disappeared are confusing. According to some accounts, Fredona, Alva's mother, had seen her daughter that morning at 9 a.m. when Alva left for the aunt's house. However, other reports claim Fredona was actually at work when Alva went missing. This raises questions about who exactly sent Alva to her aunt's house that day. It's possible the police notes incorrectly attributed the grandmother's account to Fredona. Clarifying these details could be critical in piecing together the timeline of events leading up to Alva's disappearance. Another discrepancy is the police report of facial injuries, which the medical examiner could not confirm. This raises the question about the accuracy of the initial investigation. Given Alva's badly decomposed state, it is possible an inexperienced officer mistook natural decomposition for trauma. The most troubling discrepancy in this case is the timeline between when the family began searching, 1:30 p.m., which they have always maintained, and 4:30 p.m., when Alva's friend claimed to have been with her in the park. Surely the family would have checked the park during their search. Could the friend also be mistaken, or did the family begin their search much later than reported? Sunset on that June day was 8:33 p.m. with darkness falling around 9 p.m. Would the family have waited 7.5 hours to call police? This significant gap is difficult to reconcile and suggests there may be more to the story than is currently known. In any event, the murder of Alva Jean Parris remains one of Maryland's most haunting unsolved crimes. Despite exhaustive efforts by law enforcement and the community, her killer was never brought to justice. Alva's tragic story serves as a somber reminder of the vulnerability of innocence and the lasting impact of unresolved grief. By sharing her story, we honor Alva's memory and keep her voice alive in hopes that answers may one day emerge. If you have any thoughts or theories about this case, please leave them in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and may the truth reveal itself in the shadows.